Welcome back, everyone, to the Bourbon Judge. Hope everyone's doing well. Today, we're going to go ahead and change up a little bit. So normally, I give you a review and say, hey, whether or not you should buy it, leave it on the shelf, and so forth. But today, we're going to kind of do a comparison amongst one distillery with two different sub brands, if you will, right, or two different bourbons. So we're doing Old Forester. This is one here is 1920. This one here is 1910. Wow, so we got two different Old Foresters, and I guess the thought would be, well, which one's better, Bourbon Judge, right? 1920 or 1910? So we'll give you the review at the end, but let's kind of pour these, and I'll kind of get into them a little bit. So let's talk about price first and foremost. So from a price standpoint, I think I bought both of these for about $50 to $60. Honestly, kind of depends on where you live in the country and or around the world. But most places that I've traveled, I guess the most frequent prices that I've seen for them ranges anywhere from $50 to $60. Again, just kind of depending on where you live exactly. From an availability standpoint, both are, I think, relatively easy to find. Again, and I think it's, for the most part, right? You may have to search a little bit more. I think 1920 is the easier one to find. 1910, you may have to search a little bit harder, but you can find both after doing a little bit of, let's call it a little hunting, right? Which we all kind of love. So an interesting fact of Old Forester before we kind of get into 1920 versus 1910. So they are, when Prohibition started, there were only 6 actual different distilleries that were given, I guess you would refer to it as almost like, let's call it licenses to continue to distill, even during Prohibition. And you would use that, obviously, the bourbon at that point only for medicinal purposes, right? Or at least, quote unquote, everyone thought medicinal purposes. So 6 distilleries were given that license to kind of continue on, or that certificate, whatever. And so they are one of the 6. However, they are the only one that were able to be a distillery before Prohibition, during Prohibition, during the whole using it as medicinal purposes only, and then after Prohibition. So they truly are the only one to go from before all the way to after of being a true actual distillery. That by itself is pretty darn cool, in my opinion. But let's kind of get into this 1920. So this one here is 1920. So the whole concept about this one is, well, first and foremost, the proof is 115, right? So Prohibition style. And the reason why this one's called 1920 is because, as many of you know, the Volstead Act, which is really kind of like the precursor, kind of like the beginning of all of like the whole Prohibition, it happened, the Volstead Act happened in 1920. So this is kind of like a tribute to the Volstead Act and a way to kind of think back about the way bourbon was made, right? Back at that point in time, right? Very deep, rich bourbon and so forth, a little bit powerful. Obviously, this one being 115 proof. But let's kind of go ahead and get into the nose real quick. We'll go ahead and get into a little bit here. Ooh, let me move this one around a little bit in the glass. That's a deep pour, by the way. Not bad. Ooh, Bourbon Judge is going deep tonight. All right, so I have like some almost like dried cherries or cherries. Almost some burnt orange, some burnt sugar. Little oakiness, not a ton of sweet, not like the normal caramel vanilla. I don't pick that up. Mostly the cherries, burnt orange, and some oak. Definitely powerful, even from the nose. Let's get into the taste a little bit. All right. Well, that transfers very well. The dried cherries actually did not transfer. More of like the burnt orange and some of that like the brown sugar and some of the oak that came through all the way. I had the cherries in the nose, but not in the palate, so that was a little interesting. Let me get a little bit more of this. All right. From the finish, it's like a smooth but yet long finish. A little bitey, but not a ton, right? There's not a ton of bite in this one. Pretty good bourbon. Pretty good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of clean the palate real quick here. All right. 1910. So this one actually got its name for a very interesting reason. So in 1910, there was a fire at Old Forester on the bottling line, right? So they're bottling this bourbon and, suddenly there's a fire. And so what do you do when you have all that bourbon just kind of sitting there, right? You can't bottle it, right? Because you have a fire in the bottling line. So what you do is you take the bourbon, they put it right back in the barrel. Hence, they end up barreling the bourbon twice, right? So double barrels. So that style, even till today, is still kind of going through. So they double barrel this bourbon. So here's the 1910. This one, from a proof standpoint, a little bit less. This one 115. This one only 93. So really much less. Let's kind of get into the nose real quick. This one off the nose, much sweeter. Okay. I get like, all right, almost like a very sweet, creamy, buttery, brown sugar, but light brown. Not this one was like more dark, like burnt almost in a way. Almost like a oatmeal. Wow, that's nice. Nice and light. Okay, let's go ahead and taste it real quick. Very smooth. 93 proof, right? Very smooth, very clean off the palate. That oat almost like a creamy kind of a taste, right? With like very little hints of caramel, a little bit. That does come through actually all the way through. Very nice and subtle. The finish, extremely smooth. Very little bite, like almost none. All right. So you asked me, Bourbon Judge, you own both of these, so you probably like them, but which one should I buy? The verdict is in. There can only be one winner. And the winner between 1910 versus 1920, hands down, 1920. This, in my opinion, is a premier bourbon, right? I think for the quality, for the price point, it's a full profile, right? At that 115 proof. Very, 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 just it finishes well, but the overall from the taste from the nose to the taste to the palate is very, very smooth, right? Smooth with a little bit of a bite at the end also. I love the, not so much really the cherries. I love like the brown sugar that came through, the burnt orange, and it's a very full body bourbon. And that's what just my overall profile. If you like more of like a smooth, not so much of a bite, maybe go for the 1910. But in my opinion, which one am I bringing home and which one am I going to share with my friends that I'm maybe brag a little bit to? 1920. Folks, until the next time, we will talk to you soon. And please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching today's video. And we'll talk soon. See ya.